to Coffee with the Candidates. I'm Christopher German for the Sunshine News, and we have another wonderful guest here today to talk about the Democratic platform to run against Cliff Bentz for the 2nd District of Oregon. And last night I actually had the opportunity to hear all of these candidates speak, and I wanted to get them in here so that we could talk with them and we could learn about them and get to know them a little bit, because I think this is the important part. We have 5 candidates that are running against Cliff Bentz. Patty Snow, Peter Quince, he's here today, Dawn Rasmussen, and Mary Doyle, and
Chris Beck.
Chris Beck is also running. I failed to mention Chris Beck in the last one, I think. But in any case, we have 5 candidates that are hoping to unseat Cliff Bentz, and they are going to do their level best to do what they can to, Cliff Bentz is not making any kind of appearances anymore, and he's been kind of missing from this district. So we're hopefully we'll get some more representation, and we'll get some more answers from the people that are running against him. Now, without further ado, please let me introduce you to Peter Quince. Peter, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. And by the way, that was a great introduction. I especially like that last part where you described how we're just not getting the representation that we deserve. And that's a fundamental reason why I entered the race. My mother worked for a congressman, the local congressman. She was congressional aide, ran the home office when I was a kid. So my first job was actually in that congressional office. I did correspondence, typing and filing, and running the mimeograph machine, because that was before Xeroxes.
Yeah.
and licking envelopes, which I feel like I can still taste. This awful envelope. It was such a great step up when we got one of those sponge things that you could use to moisten the envelopes, and the stamps. You had to lick stamps back then.
Yeah.
But what it gave me was a really granular sense of what it means to be a representative of the people, because he worked for the constituents. When they had an issue, when they had a problem, when the government wasn't doing what it should do for them and they needed someone to intercede for them, he didn't ask, well, did they vote for me? Did they donate to my campaign? He just said, are they a constituent? And if they were, he said, okay, we're going to do what we can for them. And that's the type of constituent service that animates me, that made me want to run, that I feel like we're just not getting. Not to mention, of course, just bringing projects, bringing federal money to the district. The average congressional district gets between $36 and $54 million a year in federal projects, and we get nothing.
Yeah.
We get bupkis.
Bupkis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so talk to me about your plan for what's it going to look like in the first year of your office, and what are you planning on doing as a candidate?
You began by saying a Democratic platform, and I'm not really sure I'm running on the Democratic platform. I don't always agree with some of the positions. I'm going to have trouble in some ways working with Democrats, but I plan to join the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is a bipartisan group, which has about 12 members right now, and we ought to have 435 as far as I'm concerned. I want to get on the agriculture, the energy and commerce, the taxation joint committee, the joint committee on the economy, and the natural resources committee to do the work that we need to bring those resources to the district. I feel like Eastern and Southern Oregon have massive untapped reserves and resources. I don't see any reason why, for example, the Republican states like Texas and Iowa should lead the nation in wind generation. We have the vast expanses we can do. We can have wind turbines set up, for miles, and we can also, there are new developments in solar panels that were developed here in Oregon and Washington, but haven't been produced because the economies of scale, they haven't been able to scale up the new technology. So that's something that we can do as a federal private-public partnership to bring those manufacturing plants right here, the battery plants that would go with them, And this district also abounds in rare earth minerals, which have not been extracted for a lot of reasons. And if they are extracted, and if we increase timber harvests, I want all of that to be done by the people locally. I want the profits to stay here. I want it to be done in a way that is sustainable, that is not harmful to the people who live in the area, and that will help transform our district. If that money and those jobs all stay here, then we end up with a chain of wind and solar generation, along, of course, with what we get already from the Columbia with water. And we'll end up with electricity too cheap to meter. Literally. Australia has done similar programs. They're a very conservative country. And they have hours of the day, off-peak hours, where they literally do not charge for electricity, where it is too cheap to meter. And there's no reason why we can't have that situation right here. And then we can use that excess, we can use that power so the data centers aren't draining the grid, because right now they are, and there'll probably be more coming. And we also can do water reclamation. That's a very energy intensive process. Like desalinization, one reason you don't have it is because it takes so much energy. But if the energy is being produced cheaply and in a green way, I think of green as being dollars.
But that means we're going to have to green light projects, like the wind projects, like the solar projects.
Right. Well, that's why I want to work on those committees. That's where the work gets done.
Okay.
And I want to be in the problem solvers caucus, because when you have a good solution, obviously I'll work with others to refine them and make sure that they work not just here in Oregon. But we're not getting the earmarks. When CD2 flips blue in November, we'll get national attention. They'll go, what is going on in that district and what can we do? They'll bring the resources here because it'll be in their political advantage to do so. Right now, we're invisible. They don't need to pay any attention to us. We're a safe Republican
That's
district.
exactly how I think a lot of people in this district feel, is they feel like they're not being seen by the feds. They're not being seen by their locals.
It's true, because they're not.
They're just ignored.
Yeah, they're not. And our current representative is too entrenched, too set on following the marching orders he gets from above, from the administration, from our current Speaker Johnson, and it's understandable. That's where the money is, but that's not where the people are, and that's not where I view myself in a tradition of citizen legislators. If you look back at our founding, Washington, Jefferson, Adams, Madison, they didn't spend a career in government. They went to government, they did their job, and then they went home to their farms or their businesses. And that was the tradition. That was how this country was envisioned. And we've given ourselves over to other, to a professional politician class. And it's not serving us. And I mean that of both parties. Democrats and Republicans both are part of that politician class. And it's time, and I think, pardon me.
By all means.
I think it's a national wave. People talk about it, blue wave, but I think it's also a wave of citizen legislators. I look at the No Kings movement. It's just a ground-up, people-powered movement. There's no organizing. There's no party involved. And that type of, especially when you have the young people today, they don't look to a party. They look to each other and joint action, community action. I see that in Maine. There's I think his name is Plattner. He's running against, he's somebody who's like a harbor master. He's never held political office. He's running against a former governor, and he's blowing her out of the water in the primary. And he's going to win. He's going to win that race in the fall.
It seems that's kind of the hope with the five of you that are running against Pence, is that
four of the five of us.
This blue tide that's going to come through in the midterms is going to.
Yeah. No, I'm not looking at it through rosy glasses. I understand This district was pretty solidly Republican, then it was redistricted in 2020 to make it more so.
It's
You know,
the
I
seventh
definitely-
biggest district in the entire United States.
It's the-
It's a massive district.
It is the second largest district that isn't an entire state.
Yeah.
It's massive, and but roughly half of the population, even though you wouldn't think it, but roughly half is west of the Cascades. But you know, the problems cross the mountains. We have the same issues of water and fire fighting, you know, and untapped resources and jobs that aren't there, especially for the young people. You know, Eastern Oregon, is outside of the Bend area. There's been a lot of areas where population is diminishing, and that's partly because young people don't see a future there. I think these are great communities. You know, I grew up in upstate New York where I saw communities dying for the exact same reason. But, you know, we don't have to do that. We can bring those resources to bear. We can do the rare earth mining and bring green energy and have a youth conservation corps to help with forest maintenance and, you know, to sustainably increase timber harvest, so we do thinning and other ways that are coordinated with our fire suppression efforts. Our firefighters are amazing. The job they do is amazing, but they need more help, and we can do that. And give young people a stake in the land and in our state and in their future.
Well, let's talk about the nuts and bolts of this county. Upper Klamath Lake, Wood River lost all its funding to be able to be repaired and to come back online. Phase 2 and Phase 3 of that project have not been completed yet because the feds took all that money away.
Right.
The Klamath tribes, they've lost all of their federal funding.
Right.
They're struggling to keep the tribe together because they've lost so much money.
Right.
And then all the children across this state that have lost Medicaid and Medicare. And,
Right. Well,
we have a massive withdrawal of money out of Oregon that is just it's crippling the state.
Right. Now, remember, all of these things are choices, and all of these choices are up to the people, not up to the government. If they think this situation that we're having right now that you're describing is the one that they prefer, they're welcome to keep our current representative. If, on the other hand, they feel like the choices that are being made on their behalf are not serving them, those you describe are awful choices. You know, just going to war in Iran, using our resources there, was a choice. We could make a different choice. We could choose to fund Medicaid, Medicare, I had an hour-and-a-half conversation with hospital administrators from Asante Medical Group saying they're losing $20 million a year and they can't sustain it. They're going to have to cut staff. They're going to have to cut services. They're going to have to do something. The reimbursement rates that they're getting from Medicare and Medicaid are too low, and the number of uninsured patients is increasing. It's just not sustainable. And that's for one of the best run, most affluent of our hospital systems. So none of it is sustainable, and all of it's a choice. And the choice is not our government's. The choice is not our Congress's choice. It's our people's choice. They get to choose. If they want, they can choose what they have now, or they can choose something different that will bring those resources back here. That's why I started this conversation by saying this district is underserved. We're not getting what we deserve.
And basically, the five candidates that are running against Bence, I think you all agree on this point, which is that Bence is not stepping up to do his job. He's not representing himself to this community.
I think almost anybody you talk to in the district who looks at it, in a clear way is going to say that. So certainly the five of us all, it's too obvious to not say it. I think there are substantial differences. I'm the centrist candidate in the race. As I said, I may have difficulty caucusing with the Democrats. I will for committee assignments, but I don't see economic justice as being the core problem. I see the core problem that we're just not making the right choices. I see public-private partnerships as a better way. I think that if you want sustainability, you need to have profitability. You bring in green power not because it's better, but because it's profitable. Because it gives us jobs, it gives us more power. It gives, as I said, power too cheap to meter. Probably in the off hours, not at peak hours. But so I'm a free enterprise guy. I owned a small business for a number of years. I helped create another small business I didn't own, but I helped create it, an online education company where I wrote numerous classes on laws and regulations that govern taxation, real estate, insurance. The Affordable Care Act was part of that, insurance. So I've actually read the Affordable Care Act.
Not many people have.
I don't recommend it. It's not fun. It'll leave you in screaming in despair.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
But it's important to know what it says, and because people who are representing us as our insurance agents need to know. So that's what the classes were taken by insurance agents so they could learn about the ACA. So I had to know it so that I could teach it so they could learn it. And so in that sense, I'm a policy person. I'm a nerd. I'm a nuts and bolts guy. I want to know how things work. I want to know how to make them work better. I'm a hands-on, blue-collar guy, and I think a lot of the other candidates, and I admire them all. They're all good people. I think they go in there thinking, we've got to impeach, and we've got to. And those are all big issues, and to the degree that those movements are happening within Congress, I'll do my part. But my job is to help this district, to bring resources to the district, to represent them when they're not getting what they deserve from the government. As I said, regardless of whether they vote for me or donate to my campaign or not, they're my constituents, and I want to speak for them. I want to be their voice. That's why I'm going there, not because I have some other ideas.
Well, we've got some big problems that are going to happen this summer.
Yeah.
Namely the fires.
Yeah.
We're going to have, we're expecting to have a lot of power outages.
Yeah.
We're expecting to have a lot of forest fires.
Yeah.
And that's going to take a lot of federal dollars to help us get over this summer because we didn't get the snow.
Our current administration wanted to eliminate FEMA and leave it all to the states. They have worked to do that. They've also brought in incompetent management as a way to sort of torpedo the agency, even if they can't kill it. We need, obviously, federal assistance has been, it went through some rough patches in the, 80s and I think during the 90s and in this century, we've ironed out a lot of those problems, and FEMA's been working a lot better. But that's why we join together as a society, because when something happens to one of us, it happens to all of us. And one of us cannot deal with those things, or one community can't deal with those things and shouldn't have to. That's why we bring our resources together. And when they have the problem, we bring our resources. We had firefighters come from Oregon down to Los Angeles to fight those fires. You know that, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we do. We are a nation of people who work together. We the people, and that's disbanding FEMA is not disbanding government. It's disbanding us. It's disbanding our helping hand that we helped create.
Well, and the aspects of that is that these there's nothing. It's the devil in the deep blue sea, and then these families that are going to be, these homes up in Sprague River and up in the Upper County are going to burn.
Thankfully, we've had some rain and snow recently, but it's not nearly enough, and it's not the right kind.
Right.
Our snowpack is going to be some of the lowest we've seen, and so the water needs are going to be, we're going to probably have to ration and as you said. And that's one reason why I want to bring that modernize our power generation, our power grid, to make it more efficient, more productive, and be able to use it to upgrade our irrigation. Right now, we have a lot of broadcast irrigation, and 70% of it goes up in evaporation. But it takes money to make drip irrigation, and the drip irrigation can be controlled by sensors. All of that takes power and money, but what it ends up doing is giving us that extra, so we don't end up with scarcity, which is what the scarcity is. Again, it's not an accident, it's not an inevitability, it's a choice. We can choose otherwise. We can choose what I like to call abundance, or at least adequacy. We can upgrade, update, modernize, and focus our resources so that we can fight those fires, so that we don't have people who are going to run out of water or have power outages and so on. We're not currently, as you said, we're not positioned to do that now, but there's no reason why we can't, make that happen in the next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years.
Let me put another arrow into this fire, if I will.
Thanks for these questions. Are so knowledgeable.
The
really
Klamath
appreciate
Irrigation
them.
District. I have firsthand knowledge of the fact that they have been trying desperately to fix this system around here because they lose so much water through evaporation.
True. Well, evaporation and leaks.
And leaks, yeah. And there's such a modernization of the system around here, and it's all gravity fed system. It's the only gravity fed system.
That's great.
And and that's one of the things that they really sell about this system is because it is gravity fed. It doesn't need to have pumping. It doesn't need to have electricity dependence. It doesn't need any of that stuff. But the truth of the matter is that it needs upgrading. It needs to be fixed.
That's if I have a core message, that's it right there. Maybe there are 2 other core messages, but that is exactly what is desperately needed, what has been overlooked, and time is wasting. It should have been done not just yesterday, but 2 days before yesterday.
It should have been done 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Exactly.
This is
I know.
We are exactly. We are racing and falling behind. So we need to change that. That's what I'm going to Washington to do. Exactly that. Another issue that is a core of my campaign is artificial intelligence, which is tied in with all the data centers we've had moving in, especially along the gorge. Currently our Congress is doing nothing about it. I don't know if you heard me last night in the speech. I called it a potentially extinction level event. I'm quoting one of the men who created one of the creators, Sam, what's his name? He said there's a 20% chance that it's an extinction level event.
Really?
That humans will no longer be necessary.
Yeah.
But you can also look at artificial intelligence as having enormous capabilities to solve problems that are very difficult to solve otherwise, like water distribution problems. That nobody can be sensitive enough to bring total efficiencies to the system or the grid, and so on. But we need to make AI, as the statement, I'm borrowing this, but we need to make AI work for us and not the other way around. And Congress, no community can face up to a data center or to this AI threat. I wonder if any country, if any nation can stand up to AI and make it so that we get the benefits, the productivity increases come right straight to us, so maybe we can work fewer hours but not make any less money. We can't count on states, local, they may try, states are trying now, but it's a cross-border phenomenon.
It's a federal issue.
It's got to be at the least.
At least a federal issue, yeah.
It could be more of a global, or at least coordinated issue.
So that brings up the aspects of the fact that we have eviscerated our federal government. I mean, we have so many programs that have been evaporated and just been laid off employees and all kinds of things like that. How is there a way that you envision to fix these systems if you get elected come November?
Well, you referred to the potential blue wave. I think there could actually be what's called a blue tsunami. That's where districts, even such as the Congressional District 2 in Oregon, that the tide is so great. There was just a special election this past week, where a district that was won by Kamala Harris by 8 points went 36 points for the Democrat.
Yeah.
There's
there's definitely a wave happening here.
Wave is that's the problem. That's what I'm saying is wave is an understatement. We could have a tsunami. And as I said earlier, I also envision a lot of citizen legislators like me going to Washington. So I think maybe, the problems that have been created over generations, honestly, and a lot of it has to do with the Congress just not functioning, and that the blame there lays with both parties, maybe more so with one of the two. It lays with the systems that we've allowed to exist, where money can determine elections. Where redistricting and gerrymandering can determine elections. But that's the system we have. I'm sure that other people will work towards changing it. I'll help them to the degree that I can. But I'm going to go there to make those things happen that you describe, so people feel the difference in their daily lives. They feel tangible differences when it comes to the water, when it comes to the power, when it comes to the jobs, when it comes to their electric bill or the costs when they go to the grocery store. I went to Costco a couple of days ago. I couldn't afford, 2/3 of the things that I typically buy. They've all gone up by $1, $2 each or something. And, they've gone from being staples to being luxuries.
Yeah. Milk is a luxury now.
Milk, and a steak.
Yeah.
Buying a steak. I mean, I used to buy steaks maybe, once a week or once every 2 weeks, and I haven't had a steak now in months.
Yeah.
And I'm not alone, obviously, but I do live the same problems the people in the district have been living.
Well, and that's part of the problem.
I want to make that difference in their daily lives so they feel it.
That's part of the problem with this district, is they feel they've been forgotten.
Exactly.
If you ask the common farmers that live,
they have been.
They just don't feel like they're heard in any way, shape, or form. They pay their taxes, but they don't feel like they're getting any kind of response.
And they're right. Sometimes people feel that way and they're not right. In this case, they are definitely right. And that has got to change. But they have that choice. They can make that change. If they just want to continue the way things are, they have a representative they can vote for that make things go right along as they are, and they can continue to be ignored. That's their choice. But they could also choose differently. And I think I'm the candidate of all the five who are running that is best expresses the voice of the people, a centrist voice, but an adamant one. You don't have to be, meek to be a moderate. You could be a militant moderate, a militant centrist, and that's where I am. I'm not going to back down. These are core issues that we need to take care of.
Well, let's talk about Kingsley Field. Kingsley Field is going to be the training center for F-35s, we presume, in the near future, and eventually we'll see some F-35s here, we hope.
Yeah, I know. Promises. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, then, what do you expect is? Are you expecting that that will boost our economy around here? And
not really. I mean, every little bit helps, but that's not a broad-based program. I'm looking at broad-based programs that impact Klamath Falls and Madras and Pendleton and Grants Pass and
the entire district.
well, because broad-based programs will do that. As I said, no community can deal with AI, for example, or these water issues or these power issues. But if we create a district-wide programs that don't just have little isolated effects, and you also can have those programs. I'm not against those, but they are window dressing, and they don't get to the core issues.
So the Kingsley Field is not going to buoy the economy around here the way we're hoping?
I'm waiting to see.
Okay.
Because, we've had promises before.
Yeah. Well, then, what else is there to discuss? I mean, we've covered everything from fires to Kingsley Field and everything in between.
Right.
So, what can people volunteer for your staff? Are you
Absolutely.
looking for volunteers?
Go to my website, www.pqnow.net, and you can donate, you can volunteer, the election is May 19th. If they're not registered as a Democrat, they won't be able to vote in this primary. So it's a real easy process to just change your registration. If you feel like changing it back, I was not a registered Democrat until 2008 when I re-registered because I was actually working on Barack Obama's campaign, and it would look bad if I couldn't vote in the primary. So, but unfortunately, Oregon does have closed primaries.
Yeah.
So, voting is the number one thing to do, being involved in any way that you can. The core of my animating principle of my campaign is something called Tikkun-Olam. It's a Hebrew term that is typically translated as heal the world. And what it says is that no one of us can heal the entire world, but we can each heal our portion of it. We can make better what's within our reach. And if we all do that, then we will heal the world.
And it means working together as a people.
It means doing what you can. If it's voting, do that. If it's working on a campaign, do that. If it's community organizing, do that. Make your neighborhood better. Go, whatever it takes, all of us doing our part just within what's within our reach. I think that running for this office is what's within my reach. That's why I didn't have to worry about whether I could win or not. All I knew was that maybe that it was within my reach to do, that I could make some things better. So I was following along with Tikkun-Olam, joining with other people, putting my two hands to work with the hands of all the people of the district to make this world better.
Well, that's where we're going to leave it today. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you
so much.
man.
Well,
you were great.
I appreciate the fact that, I got to see you guys speak last night, and then I got to catch you as you were driving through today. So Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Take care.
Appreciate it. That was Coffee with the Candidates. Thank you so much for paying attention and for being part of this process today. I want to thank Peter Quince for being here today. He has been a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways because he is talking about ways that we can fix our county and we can fix our world around us. And I want to thank him for being here today. And I want to thank you for watching because this is how we're learning about our candidates. This is how it's all going to come together. And March 19th is when this primary is happening. Or May 19th, I should say. May 19th is when this is going to happen. And it's right around the corner. So you have a big decision to make about who you're going to vote for and where we're going to take this county and where we're going to take this district to the next decade or so. I'm Christopher German for the Sunshine News. You're watching Coffee with the Candidates. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for paying attention. And we'll see you guys again next time.